Welcome back. My name is Matt Reiners, and I'm one of the co-founders of Eversound, a company dedicated to improving quality of life for older adults by giving them the gift of hearing. Today, I'm joined by Robert Bills, Senior Sales Executive and Humanizer at SiteStaff Chat. Thanks for joining me today, Robert.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much for the opportunity. Love your podcast, and I'm privileged to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
I love it. Well, Robert, I would consider what you guys are doing is just being experts, especially on like the digital presence website side. And I'm curious, how has the need for a better digital presence changed over the past few years or so?
Yeah, obviously, COVID changed everything, and it really opened up the eyes, I think, to a lot of the senior living communities and executives that they need to accelerate their adoption of technologies. And, just my personal experience, starting out with my company, it was really about the first year or so was really about teaching them the need for the technology. Now it's more about, they understand they need the technology. Now it's more explaining what the technology is, how it can be implemented to their communities, and ultimately be a revenue generating source for their communities.
Yeah, no, it makes absolute sense. I think the digital presence and just the digital priority really just skyrocketed over the course of the pandemic. People were on their phones or computers more, I would imagine, and we're like doing more of these searches and trying to find resources and trying to find all this stuff. And, brick and mortar, a lot of them wouldn't let people in. I mean, even outside of senior living. So it definitely makes sense. And it's just your storefront for a lot of different situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really like to call a website your new virtual storefront, and you're going to always get a lot more traffic coming through that storefront than your physical locations.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. And I'm curious, like, what kind of websites are you finding are driving the most leads?
Yeah, really, what I find with our marketing partners and a lot of the communities we work with is a website that focuses on the whole experience of living at the community, a site that competes against the community that a senior is leaving, as opposed to competing against the provider down the street. It's really about how you are showing to your potential new residents what the community is all about, what being a part of that community is, and making them feel welcome in that community. Again, you're never going to compete against the provider next door. You have to remember that this senior is leaving a community that they maybe have lived in for decades, and they want to feel like they're joining a new community where they can meet new friends or have friends that are already there and really become a part of that community. That's the key, is making them feel welcome and make them feel like they're not going to be losing out by leaving the community they've been in for years and years, and instead actually showing them that, maybe they could have made this move years ago, and it would have made them even happier because they realize that they are joining a new community with new friends, new activities, and a lot of the things that they had to do to maintain their own homes and pay the bills and things like that. Those things are kind of taken off the table, and it allows them to just enjoy life a little bit more.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. And here I thought you were going to say it's the websites that don't have stock images are performing better, but it makes sense, right? I think it's kind of a glimpse into the community, into the culture, and those that are looking for that social component, which I think is why a lot of people will move into senior living outside of, just the need for care as well. And I'm curious, you guys are working with so many different partners' websites and senior living providers' websites. What trends are you seeing?
Yeah, really, it's about new methods of visitor engagement, whether it's live chat or videos or, a lot of the websites are using, geofencing now, where they can really hone in on their audience that they're trying to attract. But it's really about expressing, again, the values and the culture of the community, giving that website visitor the same feeling that they would get as if they were walking through that the front door of that community. It's really about just expressing the same values and experiences that they're going to receive at the community level.
Yeah. And I think too, you talk about visitor engagement. I think giving reasons for people to stay on a site, right? Like we could talk about bounce rates all day, but it's just like, what ways are we going to engage people that are on the site? What call to actions are they going to be doing? Is some of the information more readily available than others? Like, and how do we keep people on there? And one of the things I'm curious, and it's probably not your partners because all your partners are doing it the right way, but what mistakes are you seeing within the industry in regards to their digital presence and websites?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I'm seeing is just not properly engaging with those website visitors. They've spent a lot of money in marketing dollars to bring that traffic to the website. But what do they do after that traffic is there? And it's really about choosing the right calls to action and right engagement with those visitors, so that you do keep them, so you do capture them at their highest level of interest in your community. I like to talk about kind of the leaky bucket, whereas you've put all this money into your marketing efforts and driving that traffic, but then once that traffic gets there, as you mentioned, bounce rates, it's pretty startling. For every 100 people that go to your website, you're only capturing 1 to 3% of those people's information. So 1 or 2 people out of 100 are even giving you their information in a fill form, in an email, or even picking up the phone or a chat. So it's very important to use those calls to action to improve that capture rate and be able to kind of tap into that untapped revenue. And I like to call it price versus cost. There's a price to everything. Any new technology you bring on, the marketing efforts, but what is the cost of not utilizing some of those new technologies and not tapping into those technologies that allow you to better engage with and capture the information of those visitors coming to your website?
I think there's a lot of opportunity there to just be like unique and be different and like more engaging and giving people reasons to, whether it's download content or give out free resources. I mean, we can all talk about HubSpot Inbound's marketing playbook, which is what some of the stuff that we do on our own site. Yeah. Just providing free content, building that trust and keeping people engaged with your brand and your logo and your messaging, top in front of them. And, I would love.
Sorry, Matt, but I think it really is about providing that content and providing the education. Because again, we are ingrained into senior living. We know the verbiage. We know kind of the ins and outs of the industry. Whereas, you've got an adult child who is, just got that phone call that mom fell, and they've got 48 hours to find a place to put mom. Well, that becomes very stressful. And so having all those answers there readily available for that person really does make a difference. And it gives them kind of a peace of mind that they are making the right choices along the way as they learn about this process.
Yeah. I think teaching builds trust, and that's just like, and no one's going to buy from you or want to move into your community until they have that trust in mind. And I think, teaching and content and providing that and being consultative is just like the way to go about that. And, I'm curious because I'm sure you're finding people who are rethinking their websites or their designs or kind of their digital footprint. What tips could you give to a senior living provider who's going through the thought process of redoing their website?
Yeah. First and foremost, I think, it's very important to work with marketing partners that focus on the industry. They don't, they're not, a mile wide and an inch deep. They really do focus on senior living because they're going to know how to improve that website traffic and really capture the exact market you're going after. And they know the verbiage, and they know how to interact with seniors and with adult loved ones that are looking for their services. So it really is about generating that revenue from these efforts and capturing more of those visitors at their highest level of interest in your communities. And so, first and foremost, just picking the right marketing company that understands those needs for sure in the industry, because this industry is very specific with its messaging, with its target market, and you could have a blue chip marketing company, but if they are not focused on senior living, then they might not truly understand what the needs are of your visitor, because ultimately that's what you're attracting, and that's who you want to talk to, is that end user, the visitor coming to your website.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, your point about the larger marketing firms and groups out there where I've seen it kind of get lost in the sauce, or whatever phrase you want to use, is that, senior living has a soul, and like on the business side and the people that it's helping. And there's definitely an opportunity out there to do a better job, like capturing that and displaying that into the world, that a community or a marketing group that hyper focuses on this industry, I think, has a better understanding and sense of, and have probably have seen, the good and the bad ways to do that, compared to some of these other bigger marketing positions and plays that might hyper focus on some things that don't make sense. But also, I'm sure they have some expertise in what could work on that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Robert, so I know, you guys specialize in chat, and I'm curious, what does a successful website chat function actually look like?
Well, really, specifically when we're talking about senior living, it's about the human engagement. It's about your knowledgeable chat hosts that understand and are educated in the industry, that can talk to that visitor as if they were, at the community level, working at the community. It's about, again, you mentioned hyper focus, and you really want a company that is hyper focused and experienced in the senior living industry. Not all chats are created equal, and you've got to make sure. Again, you mentioned this is an industry that is very emotional and very empathetic driven. And so having a robot there to answer the questions, it might suffice for getting that information out. But is it really creating that human engagement and connection with that visitor at a individual level that really separates them from just being another number on your Google Analytics, so to speak? So it's really about just being hyper focused, knowing the industry that you're speaking for, and really understanding what the needs are of your client, because different KPIs are for different clients. Some KPIs might have to do with census, obviously, and bringing more heads into the beds, but other ones might be employment and staffing. We do a lot of stuff for our clients when it comes to employment and staffing, and talking to those visitors that come that are interested in working for the organization. We also deal with a lot of volunteering questions and different things that otherwise would be kind of lost in the shuffle. Again, these sales teams that are getting all these virtual leads from any source, any call to action source that they may be getting, really, another thing that is important when you're choosing a chat is making sure that it is providing quality leads, so that your sales team is not inundated with leads that they then have to go back through, qualify themselves to even make sure that it is a lead that makes sense for that community. Whereas if you're using the right provider, they're doing that for your sales teams. They're qualifying those leads and talking to that visitor at a human level, again, at their highest level of interest in you, because it's so important with online traffic to engage with them as fast as possible. If you don't, if you're not talking to them within 60 seconds, more than likely they've probably bounced off your website, and you lost any opportunity to ever talk to them, to ever engage with them, to ever gain some information, personal or otherwise, about that visitor. So just making sure that integration is easy with your CRM systems, speed of engagement with the visitors. And again, just the hyper-focused in the industry itself is very important, because you want, if someone is representing you on your website, you want to make sure that the verbiage falls in line with the verbiage that you're using at your communities, that everything that you are expecting from that third party really does fall in line with exactly what your culture is, what your messaging is, and what your marketing is. And so it's very important to make sure that again, you just find that that company that really does know the industry well.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And I think, sometimes I've seen some community groups call the receptionist the director of first impressions, right? And I think the chat function is playing a similar role in that, where it's someone's first experience, first moment, first, whatever you want to call it, with the company in itself. And if it's a positive, right, I can only imagine how much that helps the overall sales process, and really just helping to set that person up for success. And last question here, Robert, even though this is off the script, but can you explain to us in the title of being a humanizer?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, when it comes to sales, and I've done, I was a real estate broker for years and years. I was in finance as well. For me, it's always been about relationships. And I think to be a successful salesperson, and really just to be a successful human, you've got to learn how to engage with people and create those relationships, because that will take you a lot further than just trying to make a buck, so to speak. And so for me, when I chose humanizer, it really was about above all else, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know, what drives you personally. I want to get to know, what makes you happy family-wise. Matt, I love seeing when you post about your daughter, or you're doing a meeting holding your daughter. I mean, those are real life experiences that bring human beings together. And I always want to be a part of that. Anything I can do to just improve the human experience, I'm all about it.
Hey, and I think this is such an important industry for that. I think you'll find the majority, if not all, of people in this are good people, and the relationships really speak to them. So it's super important.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Robert. I appreciate your time, your energy, and your passion for this industry. And thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much again. And thanks for inviting me. And thank you so much for letting me share a little bit of information.